welcome to a discussion on Sardar Patel's idea on citizenship. As you are aware, citizenship is the embodiment of special legal rights and entitlement and duties and obligations of the people in relation to the state and the people themselves. It is shaped through the engagement of people with the state for centuries. It is indeed a Western innovation and still under the process of refinement based on situational experimentation. In the present juncture of its shaping up, it has been integrated with several key elements to those have evolved over the centuries. Citizenship has been shaping and shaped in different parts of the world. Based on the Western experience, T.S. Marshall in 2009 highlighted that citizenship that embodies a varieties of civil, political and social rights have evolved over the last centuries sequentially. What is important is that what we find today as an embodiment of social, political and economic rights, those have not remained constant on the one hand, and simultaneously those have not been uniform across the world. So it has evolved. How it has been evolved over the centuries? It is widely pointed out that the citizenship started evolving with the civic rights, then there's the political rights, then there are the social rights. The civic rights which deal with the individual freedom, that is liberty of person, freedom of speech, thought and faith, right to have property, right to conclude valid contract, right to have justice, etc. It took birth in the 18th century. You understand why we are talking about the 18th century? It is the end of 18th century. We find the proliferation of the American war of independence, the French Revolution that gave the slogan of equality, fraternity and justice, and also of the citizenship idea. That is what widely Rousseau told, men are born free but they are chained. So men are born free, it is the citizen, they are born free, they are chained by the state. So that to unchain, to liberate the human being, there is the birth of revolution that gave the birth of the whole citizenship right. So what we are talking about, the 18th century has given birth to the civil rights. Now as the society progressed, there emerged the whole notion of political rights, which delineates the right to participate in the exercise of political power. That everybody, those who are born, they can be the part of exercise of the power, that is exercise of the state power. There came the demand for the adult franchise, that is the casting of vote, and those came in full expression in the 19th century. So first 100 years we found the birth of civil rights, next 100 years we have seen the birth of political rights. But political right itself, only the adult franchise and participation of political power, only limited few, is not enough to depict the expression of equality, fraternity and justice in the society. What is important? There should be proliferation of the social rights. Social rights that asserts for the right to the economic welfare and social security, right to share the full social heritage, right to live a life of dignity as a civilized being according to the standard prevailing in the society. All those rights, the talk of those rights got momentum in the 20th century. What Marshall talked about that when these rights were gradually thought of, the citizenship rights were thought of and articulated in the Western society, be it the civil rights, the political rights or the social rights. It emerged in Europe when the Europe was a capitalist society and a class-based society, and citizenship was introduced within this capitalistic and class-based social order. In India, we understand that citizenship owes its origin within the British rule, but the social condition of Indian society, these ideas, beliefs, values, custom has shaped the citizenship of this country in a different way. It is many a time because the citizenship should have grown along it has grown in the Western society. The British came to India in 1757. So that culture of British citizenship should have come to India, but those have not come. Why it has not come? Rather, British introduced varieties of the mechanism to identify Indian communities in terms of the caste, religion, creed, language, and different kind of division, because it is the division and the rule, divide and the rule, become one of the most meaningful way to prolong the British rule in Indian society. And Patel writes very effectively. For 200 years, attempts have been made by the foreign rulers to keep them means to keep the Indian in groups apart from with their customs and their and other things, in order that the foreign rule may be smooth in Indian soil. The rulers did not want that there should be any change. Thus, it is that we still have the curse of untouchability, the curse of tribe, the curse of vested interest, and many other such curses with which we are living today. We are endeavoring to give them, all Indians, a fundamental rights. That should be our endeavor to remove this curse. So this is the talk given by Sardar Patel when he was a member of the Constituent Assembly, and he was formulating the whole ideal of civic rights, the fundamental rights for the Indian citizen. India, I mean, we have to accept that India was and is a caste-based society, is predominantly feudal society when the idea of citizenship was introduced by the British in Indian society. And the citizenship as an ideal of democracy, we have to accept that it is based on equality, while caste is based on a hierarchy and a non-egalitarian social order. Though the British introduced the citizenship, as Andre Bette, widely one of the famous sociologists, he writes, though the British were the first to introduce the idea of citizenship in India, the idea of equal citizenship between themselves and their natives were conspicuously missing. During the colonial periods, Indians were the subjects and not the citizen. Mind it, during the colonial period, Indians were the subjects and not the citizens. And it was only after the Indians that the right of equal membership with equality of status and opportunity was unequivocally introduced in India through Indian Constitution. So what was that secular citizenship, that equal right, right to justice, right to equality, right against exploitation, those were introduced through Indian Constitution. So the taste of citizenship started coming only after independence and the introduction of Constitution of India. While the fundamental rights were being articulated, it was first talked about the foundation of the fundamental rights for Indian citizen was laid in the Karachi session of the Congress when Sardar Patel having presided over the Congress session. He was instrumental in passing in 1931 the documents of fundamental rights for the Indian citizen. It was underlined as early as 1931. When he became member of the Constituent Assembly, and also simultaneously he was spearheading the group of the civil liberties, of civic liberties for Indian and the people's right in 1947, he also gave a lot of emphasis on the fundamental rights of Indian citizens. So Patel's idea of citizenship was founded on secularism, equality, justice, and representation and protection of the socially vulnerable. How these are integrated and implemented in our Constitution in the section of fundamental rights, that is section 3, part 3 of our Constitution, and also widely in the directive principles of the state policy, part 4 of our Constitution. Let us have a look towards that. when India were to accept that, that is, these fundamental rights, this evolved to include the rights like protection of minorities and also other groups and tribes. He was aiming at equality in the society and always a key concern for him, because when India was formulating a kind of a constitution in 1947, India is already divided, and by the time the constitution is to be framed and right of the people are to be ensured. So in his Patel's mind was always how the vulnerable section of the society, the religious minorities, the tribes, the scheduled caste, and the economically weaker section, how their interest can be protected. So Patel was of the firm opinion about the country as a union in India. It is to be a secular state having complete safeguards of the rights of the minorities, and therefore no question of separate electorate. Quite important that he was talking about the rights of the minorities are to be protected, but not as separate electorate. He resolved, and he very strongly he told those who want that kind of things, that is separate electorate, should have a place in Pakistan, not in India. Here we are building a nation and we are laying the foundation of one nation, and those who choose to divide the country again in the name of separate electorate and sow the seeds of disruption will have no place, no quarter here. And I must say very plainly enough, that is, they have no place here. So what he was talking about, India will take care of interest of the religious minorities. Religious minorities means the Muslim, the Christian, the Zoroastrian, the Sikh, the Buddhist, the Jain and other religious minorities, and also of the tribal people, but not in terms of the separate electorate, but what is to be done in terms of giving them a special rights in the constitution. So a kind of a what we call articulating individual rights and also collective rights. So let us talk about the minority rights he talked about. Being the chairperson of the Minority Committee of the Constituent Assembly, Sardar Patel widely asserted that although the Constitution of India, it has come out of, it is refraining from using the term minority, but referred to the minorities based on the religion and language, and detailed the minority rights most comprehensively. So Constitution of India does not permit, that is, in terms of identifying minorities only in terms of religion. What he talked about the minorities in the Constitution, because it is talking about the equality, but simultaneously within that some of the group rights are protected for the various religious group, and giving them certain rights to protect their culture, to promote their culture, and also make some special arrangement of their institution. So what he did in the first phase, he identified 6 fundamental rights. Rather, initially those were 7 fundamental rights. That is, right to equality. It is talked about Article 14 and to 18. Right to freedom, Article 19 to 22. Right against exploitation, Article 23 to 24. Right to freedom of religion, Article 25 to 28. Cultural and educational right, 29, 30. Right to constitutional remedies, Article 32. There is another right, that is the right to property, that is done away with from the category of fundamental rights of Indian Constitution through the 3rd Amendment to Indian Constitution. Now let us talk about the group rights and the individual rights. The liberal democracy is based on the individual rights and also of the group rights. One can read Article 14 that guarantees the equality and prohibiting discrimination based on birth and religion. So nobody can be discriminated in the society based on birth and religion, gender, etc. consideration. Similarly, also Article 30, it guarantees that the educational institution may run by educational institution run by minority groups would not be discriminated against in grant of financial assistance from the state, even as it granted their functional autonomy, and can visualize as how framers of these articles of the constitution bravely sought to rectify the historical oppression and discrimination and untouchability and physical distance. So those are kind of things practiced in the society. So our constitution made the provision by asserting some of the collective rights to the various religious group for their educational institution. Thus, what we find that Indian constitution recognized and guarantees right to every citizen, both as individual group, those they get the fundamental rights, and also at time as a member of the religious group, linguistic group, cultural group, ethnic groups as a citizen. So it's the kind of making a balance between individual rights and also kind of a collective rights, what we call the group rights. Now, what Sardar Patel widely underlined, that is, as we told, he was for a society founded on secularism and egalitarianism. That is, everybody should get a sense of equality in the society. The constitution guaranteed the right of equality before law and equal protection of law to everybody. It also prohibits the discrimination against citizens on the ground of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. People's freedom of conscience and right to freely profess, practice, and propagate religion, subject to public disorder, morality, subject to public order, morality, and other fundamental rights. So it is everybody is having to practice their own conscience, and religion is widely accepted, subject to public order and maintenance of public morality, and not affecting the fundamental rights of others. The constitutional provision also have a separate domain of minority rights, which include right of any section of citizen to conserve and maintain their own language, script, and culture. So what we find, a kind of a fine balance between the individual rights and the collective rights in terms of religion, religious practices, and also the cultural practices. Specifically, when you talk about the religious rights, right of every religious denomination or any section thereof, subject to public order, morality, and health, to establish, maintain institution for religious and charitable purposes, manage its own affairs in matters of religion, and own and acquire movable, immovable property and administer it in accordance with the law. So Article 26 has widely given that kind of a rights of various religious and cultural group to maintain their own kind of cultural specificity. It is meant for all kind of religious group. It is for the Hindus, for the Muslim, for the Christian, for every religious group. It is widely protected. The people's freedom for the attendance of religious instruction or religious worship in the educational institution, wholly maintained and recognized or aided by the state. So what is talked about, the people's freedom to the attendance of religious instruction or religious worship in educational institution, wholly maintained and recognized and aided by the state. It is widely maintained. It is a fundamental right widely maintained in Article 28 of Indian Constitution. Now, besides that, the directives principles of the state policy, that is part 4 of our Constitution, that is not legally implementable, but it gives wide directives to the society, what way the rules are the forms and the laws are to be formed. So they're given the directives. The Constitution obligated to the state to the endeavor of eliminate inequalities in the status, facilitate and facilities and opportunities among the individual and the group of people residing in different areas, engaged in different vocations. So it talks about state will take proactive action to eliminate those kind of discrimination, and will give the equal opportunity for all those people. That is, it is obliged the state to endeavor to eliminate the inequalities in the status. If there is any inequality, those are to be eliminated in the status, in the facilities, and in the opportunities among the individuals and the groups residing in different areas and engaged in different vocation. So in terms of space, in terms of geographical location, those are to be eliminated. Also simultaneously, it's empowered the state under Article 46 to promote with special care the educational economic interest of the weaker section of the people, besides the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes. Specifically for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, Article 17 is mentioned. So Article 46 widely talked about the economically and educationally weaker section. Special provisions are to be made. We have seen that later on the Mondal Commission report has come and is implemented. So it is founded on those kind of the directives of the directive principles of the state policy. Now let us come to the related to the equality. A restriction on denial of admission to any citizen, to any educational institution maintained or aided by the state or group only of religion, race, caste, language, or any of them. So nobody can be denied admission to any citizen to any educational institution maintained by the state on the basis of their religion, caste, language, and any other thing. A right to all religious and religious minorities to establish and administer their educational institution. This is again a special rights given in the Constitution in Article 30. Freedom of the minority managed educational institution from discrimination in matters of receiving aids from the state. Also, it talks about the provision of special officer for the linguistic minorities and their duties. What is important that Sardar Patel was not in favor of a separate electorate in the name of religion, in the name of cultural group. But what he strengthened so effectively, given special right as enshrined in the Constitution, the religious right, the cultural rights, to empower them culturally and also economically, similarly to get a sense of equality within the social order. So he widely talked about, and widely what he has talked about in terms of giving protection to the weaker section, the minorities and other, it is widely reflected in the constitutional provision in several clauses, Article 29, Article 30, Article 31, and also Article 350, as I already pointed out. Now again I go back to the right to equality. As Article 14 to 18 of the Constitution of India fall under the right to equality. Article 14 states that the state shall not deny any person equality before law or equal protection of law. This is for everybody. It also talks about Article 15, the state shall not discriminate against any citizen on the ground of race, religion, caste, sex, place of birth. So these are the proactive clauses, those are made in the Indian Constitution. One is that there will be no discrimination on the basis of language, caste, creed, religion, etc. like this. Simultaneoussimilarly, it is also giving the religious minorities and linguistic minorities varieties of the enabling provision to smoothen, to flourish their cultural endeavor in the society. Now he was strongly in favor of abolishing the untouchability. There shall be equality of opportunity in respect to the public employment for all citizens, and they may not be deprived of equal opportunities on the ground only on the basis of religion, race, sex, descent, or place of birth. However, they also made that it's okay, nobody can be discriminated, but simultaneously he made the provision for protective discrimination. However, the state can make the special provision for the reservation of post for the members of any backward classes of citizen not adequately represented in services or for the scheduled caste and for the scheduled tribes. The state may make provision for the reservation in promotion for the members of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. It talks in Article 16. And similarly, untouchability has been prohibited and made a punishable offense by law in Indian Constitution. So what we find, it is not only it has given a protection of the minorities, it has also given lot of protection of socially, economically disadvantaged section of the society, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, other backward classes and the others. So what he has tried, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, to ensure the civil rights, he has made varieties of enabling provision in Indian Constitution, and those enabling provision, however, should not remain only in the law book. Those should be implemented in letter and spirit. That's why there is lot of civil society organization across the country. They're spreading the legal awareness among the people to be aware of the constitutional provision, about the civil, about the constitutional awareness. Also, there has been proliferation of the citizen charter, that is how the citizenship gradually can evolve in the country. So there should be, there has also been a process of not only legal awareness, legal literacy, starting from the early days of Indians, early days of one schooling. So what is important, Sardar Patel has widely tried. He tried to give a foundation of a egalitarian society in which everybody should get a sense of equality, fraternity, of justice, independent of their race, religion, caste and other things. Simultaneously, even the religious minorities, the economic and socially vulnerable section of the society, they can a space for their empowerment of the society. What it talks about, it is the empowerment of the citizenship, empowerment of citizenship rights. Thank you very much for being with this talk. Thank you.